Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It's Monday, November 11th, 2013, and here are our top stories.
Tonight, how the feds are tapping much more than your phone. Then, InfoWars pays homage to our veterans. And even John McCain has issues with the NSA. That's next on the InfoWars Nightly News.
We don't need you anymore. The robots and combat droids and autonomous drones, land, sea, and air, and under the water are all going online.
Well, on this Veterans Day, we need to remember that Forbes has reported that 1 million veterans from the Iraq and Afghanistan war are injured. All that can be said with certainty is that as of last December, more than 900,000 servicemen and women had been treated at the Department of Veterans Affairs hospitals and clinics since returning from war zones in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the monthly rate of new patients being added as of the end of 2012 was around 10,000 per month. But then in March, the VA abruptly stopped releasing statistics on war casualties. However, experts say there is no reason to suspect that the monthly rate of new patients has changed. So before we commit to future wars, let's remember how we were lied to get into these wars, and let's remember the real cost of these wars. Now, the U.S. military is being used in other ways in the Philippines. They're being used to provide relief after a record typhoon hits that area this weekend. It was reported that the typhoon is unofficially the strongest recorded tropical cyclone to hit land with speeds up to 195 miles per hour. And we're getting various reports from the number of deaths ranging anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000. There's a lot of reports that it's 10,000, but nothing is certain yet except it's absolute total chaos. The infrastructure has been wiped out. And we should remember that even though we're able to provide relief now, and even though the U.S. military is able to provide some relief, historically what we've seen increasingly in the United States is that when we have a large disaster, FEMA doesn't do a very good job of getting the relief there. They tend to be a bottleneck more than a facilitator, because you've got to remember that FEMA's primary responsibility is continuance of government. COG is what they're mainly concerned with. So when you look at this devastation in the Philippines, you should think about what you have done to provide for food for your family whenever we have an interruption of our fragile infrastructure, our fragile grid, and to think about the fact that not only can you set aside things to prepare for your family, but you can also set aside things to help other people who are less fortunate than you are in these situations. Now, it may be very hard in the Philippines right now, and in the U.S., people on Main Street are struggling, but not the people on Wall Street. The Standard & Poor's 500 index has climbed 108% since Obama became president, adding more than $10 trillion in equity market value, and 24% just this year. But we need to understand that this is another stock market bubble. And we need to understand that this is not something that is helping people on Main Street. People are still losing their jobs, they're still losing their homes. This is something that is helping Wall Street, and it's a big boom to K Street, to the lobbyists, to the Washington politicians who are getting paid by the big corporations, by the big banks, who are giving a pass on legislation that would have curbed in the abuses that led to the crash in 2008. And we saw earlier this year, back in the spring, we saw that the Stock Act that Congress passed to a lot of fanfare that was going to rein in insider trading in Washington. It was going to provide transparency as to which stocks congressmen and their staff were buying. That was all quietly taken away this spring. And now we see that just 12 days ago, Congress got rid of another piece of legislation that was going to rein in the abuses of prior to 2008 and the last bubble that we saw. As part of the Dodd-Frank bill, they had prohibited only about 10% of the derivative trading that had happened prior to 2008, but now even that is gone. House Bill 922 passed with 70 Democrats and all the Republican congressmen except Walter Jones, John Duncan, and Tom Massey. They all voted to allow the banks to wildly speculate yet again. So Obama is really performing well for his masters. That would be the big banks, the big insurance companies. All those reforms that they talked about, that they bragged about, Dodd-Frank, the Stock Act, all those have been quietly done away with while nobody was looking. And if you think it would have been any different if we would have had McCain, consider the fact that all of the Republicans, except those three that I just named, all the Republicans in the House voted to get rid of the derivatives restrictions. And it was only about 10% of the derivative restrictions that were even put on there by Dodd and Frank. They got rid of even those. And it's not just our money that would have been affected with McCain in the same way. It's also our liberties. Look at this story. He came out today and said that the NSA chief should be fired. He said that Keith Alexander, the head of the United States National Security Agency, should be fired or forced to resign for letting contractor Ed Snowden have access to the information he ultimately leaked. Now, see, he's saying that he should be fired because that information got out. Not that he should be fired because he acted illegally, because he spied on all Americans in a dragnet manner, because he violated everybody's Fourth Amendment. No, he should be fired because that information got out, because he embarrassed McCain and the rest of them. But actually, McCain's not really embarrassed. When they asked him about the spying on Angela Merkel, the prime minister from Germany, he said they did it because they could do it. That's an amazing admission. There's not any controlling legal authority on them. It's just if they've got the capability to do it, they do it. He pointed out these are people with enhanced capabilities that they've developed over the last decade or so. And so they were sitting around and said, we can do it. So they just did it, said the senator. And obviously he doesn't have any problem with that. He only has a problem with the fact that we found out about it. And then of Snowden and Russia, he said, it's a slap in the face of all Americans. Now is the time to fundamentally rethink our relationship with Putin's Russia. See, he thinks that it's a slap in the face of Americans that someone who is blowing the whistle on illegal activity had to escape to Russia. No, the slap in the face is that they refuse to do anything about it. They allow high-ranking officials to lie to Congress, which is a felony, and nothing is done about it. They merely get mad about the fact that these criminal actions were exposed. Now, we also had Representative Sensenbrenner go to the European Parliament and slam the NSA. And this is kind of unusual because this is the same Sensenbrenner who introduced the Patriot Act. He authorized the Real ID Act. And he even walked out of the House committee hearings one time on Gitmo because they were talking about human rights violations. He didn't want to talk about this. This is also the Sensenbrenner who advocated last year amending the Espionage Act of 1917 to enable the prosecution of journalists. So Sensenbrenner goes to the European Parliament and he says that he's now going to introduce the Uniting and Strengthening America by Fulfilling Rights and Ending Eavesdropping, Dragnet Collection, and Online Monitoring Act. He calls it the USA Freedom Act. They love to come up with these contrived acronyms that are absolutely ridiculous. He says the title intentionally echoes the Patriot Act because it does what the Patriot Act was meant to do, strike a proper balance between civil liberties and national security. That is the big lie. You do not balance liberty against security. If you give up your liberty, all you're going to get is slavery. There is no balancing act here. And this is from the same person who has given us nothing but encroachments, massive encroachments on our civil liberties, destroying the Constitution. And now he's got some act that he claims is going to get everything back in some kind of a phony balance. What's going on is that 6 days ago, he announced that he's running for re-election. He knows which way the wind's blowing. He knows that people are upset about what the NSA is doing. And so he's merely trying to cover for himself, saying that even he is concerned about the direction that his own legislation has taken. But look at this story from Paul Joseph Watson. The feds are now deploying a national spy system of microphones capable of recording conversations. He says the revelations of Ed Snowden shone fresh light on NSA spying targeting the American people, but what has gone largely unnoticed is the fact that a network of different spy systems, which can record real-time conversations in public, are already in place throughout many urban areas of the U.S., as well as in technology products that we buy and use on a regular basis. They are no secret, but they are hiding in plain view. Now, if you remember back to the video that we've referred to many times and we showed many times here at InfoWars, the one where Tom Mabe, the comedian, went around and he had headphones, he had a boom mic and a wire so that it looked like he was recording. He's dressed up like a Secret Service agent in a black suit with black sunglasses. But they're actually doing it the same way that Tom Mabe did in his comedy skit. The only difference is you don't see a man there. And the only difference is that the technology is much better than one man standing over your the two of you with a microphone. Well, coming up right after the break, we've got more on Veterans Day, and the Obamacare scandals keep piling up. Stay tuned.
Sir, what brings you out here today?
Oh, the Veterans Days Memorial Ceremony.
And you serve?
Yes, I do. I still currently serve.
Okay, you serve.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Texas Army National Guard, part of the Texas Military Forces.
Well, I'm a veteran and I'm participating in the parade, and I'm going to present the wreath to the unknown veterans.
And do you have any firearms with you today, sir?
Oh, no, I don't have any with me today.
Okay.
Didn't need any today.
Yeah, you didn't need them today. All right, what do you think about all the recent gun legislation? You know, we've had the tax at the schools and the malls, and a lot of people are trying to take the guns away. Do you think that's a good thing to take the guns away?
No, I sure don't. I fully believe in the Second Amendment.
Now, there's been a lot of talk in the news about firearms and why we need essentially assault weapons. Do you agree that we need to ban assault weapons?
I agree that every person should be entitled to carry whatever weapon he wants.
This is a law. It's basically a disposable bazooka.
Disposable bazooka?
Yeah, when they phased out the 3.5 rocket, which was the bazooka that carried Nam, we actually started using these.
I've seen reports about people in the military not being able to observe their faith rights being suppressed.
I don't think it's okay. I think people should be given the opportunity to practice their religion, as long as it doesn't offend other people or other religions.
Oh yeah, they should. They should be able to observe their own faith, no matter what religion it is, because this is a free country.
I'm Gigi Arnetta with Tyranny Watch on the InfoWars Nightly News. Well, over the last few days, 3 20-year-olds built a website much like HealthCare.gov. You can actually log on to it and find out how much health insurance will cost you. On the website, you'll see that the insurance purchaser can decide if they want to buy. And if they do, the information on how to do it is available right there on HealthCare.gov. Don't worry, if Obamacare collapses, guess who pays for it? Last week on the Incidental Economist blog, Adriana McIntyre explained a provision buried in the healthcare law called the risk corridor. It's one of Obamacare's 3 R's, along with reinsurance and risk adjustment, that are intended to protect insurers, especially in Obamacare's first 3 years. Risk adjustment and reinsurance both require profitable health plans to share risk with unprofitable ones. In the event of a widespread failure, taxpayers potentially face a multi-billion-dollar bailout of health insurers. And Kathleen Sebelius is in the hot seat again. On Wednesday, they start the hearings in which she's going to continue testifying, and 2 scandals may actually come up. The first one is Enroll America. You may have heard of it. First, federal law prohibits governmental regulators, such as HHS, from soliciting funds from entities that they regulate. Sebelius claims she did not solicit from these HHS-regulated groups, but admits to contacting them and talking to them about Enroll America. And for scandal number 2, you may have heard the name Anthony Welters. He's a huge Obama donor and a regular at the White House. He's also the executive vice president of a company named United Health Group. He's already made millions from Obamacare because United Health Group owns QSSI, a software company responsible for a large portion of HealthCare.gov. There's also something called an anti-kickback law, which Sebelius seems to think that Welters is immune to. Sign up for PrisonPlanet.tv today and give your username and password to up to 10 people. Kathleen Sebelius will be answering questions about these scandals and other things this week as she continues to explain her management of Obamacare. I'm Gigi Arnetta for Tyranny Watch on the InfoWars Nightly News.